Do you recognize me, human? Your childhood neighbor just became an alien Bombshell, and she has secrets to unleash. Asterisk, the twin suns of Verania hung high in the lavender sky, casting long golden shadows across the crystalline towers of Port Emerald. Their light refracted through the city's iconic bioarchitectural spires, causing the very air to shimmer with hues that danced between emerald and amethyst. As Dylan Rhodes guided his battered old starship through the descent corridor, he couldn't help but feel a jolt of something both electric and unwelcome nostalgia. 15 years. That's how long it had been since he'd last set foot on this alien world. He'd left as a lanky, angry 17-year-old. Now, at 32, he was taller, harder, and maybe even angrier, but he'd buried it better. His torso, bare beneath his open flight jacket, was tanned from dozens of exotic suns. Scars crisscrossed his skin, souvenirs from bad deals, pirate entanglements, and the occasional lover's quarrel gone sideways. He wasn't the wide-eyed colony kid anymore. He'd seen too much, lost too much. The landing clamps hissed as the ship touched down on docking pad C7. The Port Emerald spaceport hadn't changed. Still the same fusion of gleaming alien crystal tech and rusted metal catwalks. Still smelled faintly metallic like ozone and orchids. As he descended the ramp, the automated greeting system crackled to life with a rehearsed cheerfulness. Welcome to Port Emerald. Please proceed to customs for processing. Dylan slung his jacket over one shoulder and exhaled. The place looked the same, but something in the atmosphere had shifted. A tension beneath the polish. Too many armed patrols. Too many eyes watching from behind reflective visors. He didn't like it. He was halfway through the customs checkpoint when he felt it that. Stare. Not hostile. Not bored official business. Something ... sharper. Warmer. He turned, expecting to find a customs agent ready to hassle him for old travel permits. What he saw instead stopped him cold. Leaning against a crystal support beam was a woman. No. A vision. Emerald skin that shimmered like polished jade. Long legs hugged by metallic fabric that gleamed with each subtle shift of her hips. A corseted top framed her curves with unapologetic precision, and cascading hair the color of rain-washed. Leaves spilled over her bare shoulders. But it was her eyes, vivid, verdant, and unnervingly familiar, that truly caught him. She tilted her head, lips curving into a smirk that struck somewhere between challenge and invitation. Well, she said, her voice a smoky blend of humor. And heat, don't tell me you've forgotten your next-door neighbor already. Dylan blinked. The gears turned slowly, as if shaking off years of memory. Then it hit him. Little Talatal? He asked, stunned. The girl who used to dare. To eat glowing moss behind the school dome? She stepped closer, her stride fluid and confident. Not so little anymore, am I? No, Dylan said, voice low. No, you're not. She laughed, and it was like hearing a song he'd once known by heart. You promised to write, you know, after you left. He rubbed the back of his neck. Life got complicated, doesn't it always? She replied, eyes narrowing ever so slightly, as though she could see through the cracks in his charm. But you're back now, and I think you owe me a drink. He cocked an eyebrow. That a demand or an offer? It's a beginning, she said, brushing past him, her fingers barely grazing his arm. There's a place, the Stellar Wind. You remember it? Vaguely. Then let me jog your memory. She tossed a glance over her shoulder. We have 15 years to catch up on, and I have a feeling you're going to want to hear what. I know. Dylan hesitated just long enough to wonder what exactly he was stepping into. Then he followed her, boots echoing against the polished floor, unaware that with each step he was drawing closer, not just to Tala, but to the truth buried. In Verania's glowing heart, the Stellar Wind was just as Dylan remembered, only more alive. Tucked between two moss-veined crystal towers in the heart of Port Emerald's older district, it pulsed with a soft bioluminescent glow that moved like breath through its stone walls. The entrance shimmered with translucent filaments, brushing gently against them as they passed through, like the building itself was testing their chemistry. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with spice smoke, alien perfumes, and the quiet hum of crystalline music that played through resonant chimes embedded in the architecture. A dozen species mingled beneath glowing vines strung like constellations overhead. Verdian dancers with shifting skin hues moved through. The crowd, their motion hypnotic, fluid, almost unreal. Tala led him past it all with the casual grace of someone who belonged. People watched them, some with curiosity, some with wariness, but no one stopped her. She wasn't just beautiful. She was respected or feared. Maybe both. She chose a secluded booth in the far corner, shaped like a half shell of shimmering stone, and gestured for Dylan to sit beside her. Not across. Beside. Close. Her thigh brushed his as she settled in. Her skin warm and smooth against his. He pretended not to notice. So, he said, scanning the room with a smuggler's instinct, "You going to tell me what's really going on here? Or are we just catching up over drinks?" A faint smile touched her lips. "Can't it be both?" She snapped her fingers, and a server drone hovered over, depositing 2 glasses of swirling iridescent liquid. Dylan lifted one, giving it a skeptical sniff. "Real Andromeda ice wine?" he asked. "The real deal. Fermented under trinary moons." She clinked her glass gently against his. "Welcome home." He drank. It was cold and electric, like swallowing starlight. It hit harder than expected, spreading warmth through his chest and tingling down to his fingers. Tala was watching him. "I saw you on the manifest 3 days ago," she said. "Didn't believe it at first. Thought maybe it was just some other Earthborn drifter with a name like yours. But you hoped. I knew." She leaned in, her voice lowering. "And I knew it wasn't random. You wouldn't come back to Verania unless something dragged you here. Something old, something buried." He looked at her, then reached into his jacket and pulled out a small, worn datapad. The casing was scorched, cracked as if it had survived. "An explosion. This came from my father. 3 months ago. Disappeared from Earth, left no explanation. Just this." He activated the pad, showing her the message. "Return to where it began. Port Emerald. Find the girl who remembers. Trust no one else." Tala's expression didn't change, but he saw the flicker in her eyes. Recognition. Pain. "Your father," she said softly. "He never stopped protecting you, even when they forced him off-world." "Who's they, Tala?" Dylan asked, voice sharp now. "And why do I feel like you already know?" She hesitated, then reached across the table and took his hand. Her touch was firm, grounding. "Because I do. And because if we're going to do this, if you want the truth, you need to understand what's at stake." "What is at stake?" Tala leaned closer, her lips almost brushing his ear as she whispered, "Everything. Your past, your bloodline, and the lie that's held our people apart for over 10,000 years." Dylan pulled back slightly, his expression hard. "That's impossible. Humans didn't make contact with Verania until 300 years ago, officially." She interrupted. "But that's not the truth. That's what they want us to believe. Your father found something, a piece of history that changes everything. And when he did, they forced him into silence, just like they forced you away." The weight of her words pressed on him like gravity. He stared at her, into those glowing green eyes that were no longer just beautiful, but dangerous. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked quietly. She smiled, but it wasn't playful this time. It was fierce, because I've been waiting. For you, Dylan Rhodes, not just because of who you were to me, but because of who you are to all of us. A shadow moved near the entrance. Dylan's gaze flicked toward it. A tall, dark-skinned Verdian male had entered, eyes scanning the bar with quiet menace. He wasn't dressed like a patron. He was looking for someone Tala noticed too. Her fingers tightened around Dylan's. "They're here," she whispered. "Who?" "People who'd rather see you dead than let you uncover what your father died trying to protect." Dylan's pulse quickened. "He's dead?" "No," she said quickly, her eyes flicking to the approaching figure. "But if we don't move fast, he might be. And you will be too." She stood abruptly, tugging Dylan up with her. "We're not safe here. Not anymore." As they disappeared through a glowing side exit, the crystalline walls of the stellar wind pulsed a dull warning. Red, as if the bar itself sensed what was coming. And Dylan, heart pounding, knew this was no longer about nostalgia. It was war. Asterisk. The alley behind the stellar wind was narrow, shadowed, and slick with condensation from the nearby atmospheric vents. Pale steam curled around Dylan's boots as he followed Tala down the winding path between bioengineered walls that pulsed, softly in the dim light, responding to their movement like living things. Every few steps, she glanced behind them, her posture tight, every bit the predator now. The playful girl from the bar was gone. They reached an access hatch embedded in the wall, a maintenance door, disguised with shifting crystal that rippled. At Tala's touch, a sequence of rapid taps along the glowing glyphs, and it hissed open. She pulled him inside without a word. The passage beyond was colder, quieter, ancient. This wasn't standard city infrastructure. The walls were darker here, veined with dormant crystal strands and etched with symbols far older than any Dylan had seen in Federation design manuals. He looked around, half wary, half awed. Where are we? A tunnel system beneath the central district, Tala replied, already several paces ahead, her voice echoing in the low-ceilinged space. Part of the original Verdian settlement before the human colony even landed. Most of it sealed off to the public. "You have a key?" "I have clearance," she said, her tone sharp with irony. "And a habit of being in places I shouldn't." Dylan followed her deeper into the tunnels. His mind spun with questions, but none louder than the image of the datapad still burning in his memory returned to where it began. Find the girl who remembers. He hadn't understood the message at first. Now he was walking through a secret corridor with a woman who used to dare him to leap off rooftops and sneak into science labs, and who now spoke in riddles about ancient lies and assassins. "Tala," he said, matching her pace. "What the hell did my father find?" She stopped so suddenly he nearly collided with her. The corridor had opened into a larger chamber, its walls sloped and covered in bioluminescent markings. A faint humming filled the space, like something alive was just beneath the surface of the stone. Tala turned to face him. "Do you remember the old research facility by the crater ridge? Where our fathers worked?" "Yeah," Dylan nodded. "I wasn't allowed near the lower levels. One time I snuck past the gate, and your dad caught me. I never saw him so angry." "He wasn't angry," she said softly. "He was scared." She crossed the chamber to a pedestal in the center and pressed her hand to its surface. The stone came to life, casting beams of greenish light that coalesced into a hovering hologram primitive cave paintings, glowing softly, depicting tall humanoid figures with both human and Verdian features. They stood side by side, hands joined, beneath the twin suns. Dylan stepped closer, drawn to the images like a moth to flame. "This was found in a sublevel of the crater facility," Tala said. "Your father was overseeing an expansion project. He and mine discovered this chamber by accident." He stared at the figures in the hologram. They single quotes human and Verdian. She nodded. Together, as one people. This ark is over 10,000 years old. Dylan shook his head. No, that's impossible. Humanity hadn't even left Earth. Officially, Tala interrupted, stepping close. But these aren't. Just drawings. They're encoded with ancient genetic markers. Your father found samples, DNA, fully intact. It proved that humans and Verdians not only coexisted, but interbred naturally. Long before any first contact, he stared at her, trying to process the magnitude. But that would mean that everything we've been told is a lie. That the High Council has built an entire empire on a false timeline. That we are not two separate species, but one people divided by politics, engineered history, and fear. A deep silence fell between them, broken only by the soft thrum of the pedestal's light. Finally, Dylan whispered, "Why suppress this? Why exile my family?" "Because if the truth came out, it would destabilize everything," Tala said. "Verdian superiority, human subservience, the very fabric of the interstellar order. Unity would threaten those in power. So your father became a liability. And you? You were the son of the man who knew too much. They had to get you off-world." Dylan took a shaky breath. "And now they know I'm back." Tala nodded. "And they'll come for you, for us." A warning chime echoed through the chamber, subtle, low frequency, vibrating through the stone. "Motion sensors. We have company," Tala muttered. "We need to move." But Dylan caught her wrist, eyes locked with hers. "Why show me all this? Now? Why trust me?" Her expression softened, despite the tension. "Because I never forgot you, Dylan. Not the boy who gave me his jacket when I fell in the snow dome. Not the friend who climbed trees with me just to watch the meteor showers. And because..." She took a step closer. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Because this was never just about science, or politics, or history. It was always about us." The moment hung between them raw and unresolved. But before either could speak again, a blast echoed down the corridor. Behind them, not too late. They'd been found. Tala drew a compact plasma pistol from her side, eyes flashing. "Looks like we're out of time." Dylan smiled grimly, adrenaline blooming in his veins. "Then let's make it count." The corridor behind them lit up with flickering red emergency glyphs as the blast echoed off the crystalline walls, sending a shower of sparks down from the ceiling. Dylan barely had time to register the sudden heat before Tala shoved him behind. A support pillar with practiced efficiency. 3 incoming, she hissed, checking her pistol's power cell. Verdian enforcers. Military grade. Probably loyalists. Dylan peeked around the edge just long enough to see the silhouette stall. Armored figures moving with the precision of trained killers. Their weapons gleamed with bioelectric signatures, humming softly in sync with their owner's pulse. "So," he muttered, ducking back beside her, "I take it they're not here to return my luggage." Tala offered a tight, amused smile despite the situation. "You always did joke when you were nervous." "Is it working?" "No." Footsteps echoed louder now. The air shimmered faintly stealth fields. They were getting close. Tala adjusted her stance and flicked a secondary switch on her pistol. "You remember the ventilation shaft under the old observation dome? The one we got stuck in for 3 hours during that heat wave? That's the one. Still connects to the outer tunnel network. Go now." "No," Dylan said sharply. "I'm not leaving you here." Tala's eyes blazed, not with anger, but something closer to desperation. "You have to. They don't know what you know yet. If they capture you, the research dies with you. And you?" She hesitated. "I'm harder to break than you." Dylan grabbed her wrist before she could step away. "We do this together. Like we always did." Her breath caught at the intensity in his eyes. For one brief second, The tension in the air melted into something raw and magnetic. She didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned forward and kissed him hard, urgent, like she wasn't sure there'd be another chance. When they broke apart, her eyes lingered on his. Then stay low and follow me. They darted into the side tunnel just as a bolt of plasma scorched the wall where Dylan's head had been seconds before. Crystals screamed in response, turning red and alerting the entire section. The enforcers gave chase, weapons flashing. Tala, her movements agile and precise. Dylan followed, heart pounding, the corridor tightening as they reached the old shaft access. A hidden control panel flickered to life under her palm, revealing a crawl space just wide enough for them to squeeze through. Ladies first, Dylan offered, breathless. She rolled her eyes. You just want the better view. They crawled into the shaft, the polished crystal around them dark and close. The heat from the firefight faded behind them, but Dylan could still hear the metallic footfalls echoing in pursuit. They didn't have much time. After what felt like an eternity of twisting tunnels and emergency access roads, the shaft opened up into a hidden chamber lit by natural crystal light. Stalactites shimmered overhead, and the floor was uneven, but beautiful, like standing inside the belly of a gem. Dylan stood slowly, looking around in wonder. I haven't been here since we were kids. Welcome back, Tala said, brushing dust from her skin. He turned to her. Why this place? She walked to the center of the chamber and knelt, placing her hand against the ground. The floor responded with a pulse of pink light, spreading outward like ripples in water. Slowly, the wall opposite them came alive, ancient glyphs illuminating. One by one, followed by a projection of a map, not just any map, the cave system beneath Port Emerald. Highlighted sections. Hidden chambers, markers. Your father left it for you, Tala whispered. Encoded to respond to your DNA. He always knew you'd come back. Dylan stared in awe. All this time. It's not just about proving our peoples were once one, she said, rising to meet his eyes. It's about what they left behind. Medical records. Genetic archives. The truth about natural hybridization. About what we are. She stepped closer, voice low, almost reverent. This chamber, it's the beginning of everything. And I think your father hoped we'd find it together. Dylan looked at her, really looked at her. The fierce intelligence, the fire in her eyes, the unshakable resolve wrapped in a body that had haunted his memories since he left. And what are we, Tala? She reached out, taking his hand and placing it on her abdomen. Her skin glowed faintly beneath his touch, warm and alive. The crystals pulsed in harmony around them. We're proof that the past never died, she said softly, only waited. The chamber responded with a deep hum, and the light intensified, colors shifting into radiant golds and blues, as if acknowledging their bond. The symbols on the walls now glowed with unmistakable clarity. One showed a human and a Verdian entwined hand in hand, two glowing forms cradling a smaller third. Is that a record? Tala whispered, eyes glistening. Of the first. Air shifted around them, not a breeze. Not vibration, not something older. Awakening. But before they could absorb the full weight of it, the soft chime of an incoming proximity alert echoed from Tala's belt. Dylan stiffened. They found us again. She met his eyes. Then it's time to stop running, Tala said, lifting her pistol, and start a revolution. The narrow escape tunnels hummed with low energy, the crystals embedded in the walls glowing in warning pulses as Dylan and Tala pressed deeper into the cavernous system. Above them, Port Emerald trembled, whether from tremors, interference, or the approach of something far worse. Neither of them knew. But down here, in the half-lit depths of ancient truth and forbidden's memory, the air was thick with consequence, Dylan could feel the weight of it settling on his shoulders. Not just the weight of danger, but of purpose. For the first time in years, he wasn't running from something. He was running toward it. Tala moved like a woman-possessed fluid, focused, ferocious. She led him through junctions and bio-coded doors, down sloping paths lined with glowing glyphs that pulsed in time with their footsteps. Whatever they were approaching, it was alive. A dormant system that was beginning to wake up, breath by breath, as if their presence was feeding it. They emerged into a vast chamber that dwarfed the last, a colosseum of crystal. Staggering spires of mineral rose like petrified flames, and a massive central dais stood at the heart of it all, humming, with long dormant power. "This is it," Tala whispered, stepping into the light. The broadcast chamber. Dylan followed, eyes wide. "This is where they did it? Where they spoke to their people?" She nodded. "Thousands of years ago. Before the council. Before the separation. This is where human and Verdian leaders stood side by side and told the truth." Dylan exhaled. "Then let's tell it again." They climbed the dais. As they did, the crystal beneath their feet flared to life, reacting to their steps, their presence, their DNA. A soft resonance began to build in the chamber, like a massive instrument tuning itself to two familiar notes. Tala approached the control, node a swirling nexus of crystal stems and embedded glyphs, and placed her hand upon it. The structure lit up, responding instantly to her Verdian signature. Then Dylan stepped beside her, placing his hand opposite hers. The moment his palm touched the crystal, the entire room erupted in radiant light. Golden strands of holographic data spiraled upward. Images of humans and Verdians together, working, laughing, loving. Ancient genetic helixes entwined. Symbols danced across the walls, painting a history that had been buried by centuries of lies. And then the transmission began. Across Port Emerald, public displays flickered and activated. In homes, streets, plazas everywhere, holograms sprang to life, broadcasting the truth not in words, but in images. In DNA, in memory. The people watched as their own ancestors appeared before them, Verdian and human, together. Children with mixed features. Entire communities that had once lived in harmony, now reduced to myth and secret. Gasps rose from the crowd, cries of confusion. And then, unmistakably, hope. In the broadcast chamber, Tala's fingers danced over the controls. "We're uploading the full genetic archive. Unaltered. Your father preserved it. And this system, it's rewriting the locked genes in real time." Dylan blinked. "Wait, rewriting?" Tala turned to him, eyes blazing. "The High Council didn't just suppress the truth. They suppressed us. Our blood, our connection. But the moment this system senses compatible DNA, like ours, it begins the reversal." Dylan opened his mouth to respond, but a sudden shift in the resonance cut him off. A new signal had entered the field, stronger, sharper. An alarm echoed through the chamber. From the far end, a door cracked open with a hydraulic hiss, and Commander Vex stepped into the light. But he wasn't alone. Behind him stood a half-dozen elite Verdian soldiers, their armor gleaming, weapons raised but not aimed. Vex's expression was unreadable. "You activated it," he said, voice low. "The ancient broadcast." Dylan stepped in front of Tala instinctively. "We had to. People deserve to know the truth." For a long, tense moment, Vex said nothing. Then, slowly, he stepped forward and knelt before them. "I know," he said. "That's why I led them here." Behind him, the soldiers lowered their weapons and removed their helmets. They were young, and every one of them wore some subtle sign of hybrid lineage. Verdian eyes with human jawlines, human skin with bioluminescent veins. They had known the truth all along, You're not loyalists, Tala whispered, stunned. No, Vex replied. Rising. We're keepers of dawn, descendants of the original bloodlines. Your father wasn't alone in hiding the archives, Tala. He had help. Dylan stared at the commander. Why the games? Why the cryptic threats? Because we needed to know if you were ready, if your bond was real, if the blood called true. Tala's hand slipped into Dylan's. It did, she said simply. Vex nodded solemnly. Then it's time. The soldiers stepped aside, forming a protective circle around the platform. Outside, the city pulsed with awakening light. People were changing, reconnecting, glowing. We're not just rebels anymore, Tala whispered, her other hand drifting to her stomach. We're the future, Dylan said, voice thick with emotion. And in the chamber of ancient truths, beneath the watchful eyes of long-dead ancestors, they stood together not as fugitives, not as outcasts, but as the spark of a revolution millennia in the making, a union that could no longer be denied, and a child, glowing with the legacy of both bloodlines, waiting to be born into a world finally ready to remember. The stars above Port Emerald shone brighter that night, though whether it was the clear skies, the shifting bioluminescence that now flowed freely through the city's towers, or the collective weight lifting off a people who had just rediscovered their past, no one could say for sure. In the heart of the city, the ancient broadcast chamber pulsed with residual energy. Its walls, once dormant crystal, now glowed with the intertwined patterns of human and Verdian DNA. The transmission had ended hours ago, but the effects rippled through the city like an aftershock. Across streets and spires, lights flickered not in warning, but in celebration. As if Verania itself had exhaled for the first time in centuries, Tala stood on the balcony of a crystalline platform above the chamber, overlooking the central plaza, where thousands of citizens, human and Verdian alike, had gathered. Her green skin shimmered faintly. Her expression caught somewhere between awe and exhaustion. The residual glow around her stomach hadn't faded. If anything, it pulsed brighter now, in time with the heartbeat growing inside her. Behind her, Dylan emerged from the chamber, now flanked by Captain Marana and several members of the newly forming council. He was shirtless again, his jacket long since abandoned during their sprint through the tunnels, and his skin bore faint glowing traces where the crystals had touched him. You sure you want to make a speech? Marana asked, eyeing the crowd. They're ready to follow you without one. Dylan shook his head. They're not here for me. They're here for the truth. He walked to Tala's side, and she instinctively reached for him. His hand settled over her abdomen without thought, as if it had always belonged there. There. Not just here for the truth, Tala said quietly. They're here for permission to believe in it. Dylan nodded, then stepped forward to the edge of the balcony. A hush fell over the plaza as the people below noticed him, the man who had disappeared years ago. The child of the man who had defied the High Council, the human who had returned not to start a war but to finish in story. He raised his voice not with amplification, but with certainty. 15 years ago, I left this world without understanding why. My family was exiled, my past buried, and the truth. He looked down at Tala, whose eyes never left his. The truth was torn from all of us. He turned back to the crowd. Asterisk. But that truth is awake now. You've seen it. You felt it. In your skin, in your blood, in your children. Murmurs rose from the crowd, parents holding glowing infants, elders touching their own now radiant veins. For centuries, we've been taught to fear one another, to believe our differences made us superior or unworthy. But the evidence is older than the council, older than the lies. We are not two peoples. We never were. We were divided to control us. Cheers broke through the silence. Tala stepped beside him, her voice rising like a blade drawn in the dark. We were told natural union was impossible. But here I stand Verdian born, with human blood growing inside me. No engineering, no interference, just love and history, and evolution doing what it was always meant to do. The cheers became a roar. Dylan wrapped his arm around her. "Let them come," he said to the crowd. "The remnants of the old council, the ones who fear what we are. Let them try, because they can't stop what's already begun." Behind them, the ancient broadcast system reactivated once more, this time showing live images of new unions. Human and Verdian hands interlocked. Children's glowing eyes. Crystalline resonance blooming over cities long thought lost to separation. And then another figure stepped forward. Commander Vex. He was older, battle-worn. His presence had once sparked fear. Now, he bowed low before them both. As one of the last voices of the council, he said, voice cracking, "I surrender my title, my station, my silence, and I offer myself to the new unity." The plaza exploded in applause. Later that night, beneath the stars, Dylan and Tala lay side by side in the soft grass of the outer ridge, just like they had all those years ago, as children watching meteor showers. Only this time, there was no fence to climb, no fear of being caught, only warmth, and wonder. "I still can't believe this is real," Dylan whispered, brushing a glowing strand of her hair away from her cheek. Tala smiled softly. "You used to say that when I beat you at climbing the irrigation towers. I let you win," he grinned. She rolled onto her side and kissed him. "And now you've given me something better than any victory." His hand found her stomach again, feeling the faint thrum beneath her skin. "Our child?" he murmured. "Our future," she corrected. They lay there in silence, the twin moons rising overhead. Port Emerald skylines sparkled below them. A city reborn. And within the crystal heart of Urania, old wounds healed. Ancient bloodlines awakened. And love once forbidden. Now unstoppable wrote a new chapter in the stars. Together. As it was always meant to be. Asterisk.